Hey guys, Fan here with a video tutorial of how to jungle Doom for solo queue and party queue. So what I want to cover in this tutorial is pretty basic. I just want to cover the starting items which you see me buying right now. Not the courier, your support is going to get that. But these should be your starting items, and I'm also going to cover what jungle pattern you should generally take, and kind of tips and advice as far as jungle Doom. So a little bit about myself. My name is Fan, and I'm a 5k plus player. Back when I was laddering pretty actively a couple months ago, I was on the top 200 list for North America pretty consistently. And I've actually used this same jungle Doom build for the last couple patches. And I've used it with and against some pro players and a lot of high MMR players. So it definitely works even at the highest MMR bracket. And Jungle Doom is just such a strong hero right now. It's gonna work no matter where you are on ladder, basically. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is what you should do before the timer hits 0-0. So as you saw, what I was doing was I was cutting down trees to make navigating through the jungle a little easier. And the other benefit to that is, your opponents don't know these trees are cut down. So if you're getting ganked, you can make a quick escape, and your opponent might not know what hit them. But of course, that doesn't happen that often. But it's still something you should get in the habit of doing. The next thing you should do is, when the timer hits 0-0, as you saw me doing, you should always be checking the rune. And if it's there, you should go ahead and take it. If not, come back to this big camp and wait until 30, which is when the creeps first spawn. Okay, so as soon as timer hits 30, go ahead and start killing the big camp. Now for the big camp, you always want to eat the biggest creep and then kill off whatever's left in the camp. The only exception to this rule is when there's a Hellbear Smasher. If you do spawn a Hellbear Smasher camp, I would recommend either eating the Hellbear Smasher and immediately moving on to the small camp, or just bypassing the camp altogether and going to another big camp to look for something better. And the reason for that is because the Hellbear Smasher is really it's really strong even after you eat the big one, and it's really not worth your time or HP to kill the small one. So you always want to be skipping that one when you can. Every other camp though, it's fine, you should just kill it. Okay, so now I'm gonna move over to this small camp. Now, you can kind of choke jungle here if you get like a bunch of melee creatures, but it doesn't really matter for Doom. He's not a jungler that's really dependent on choke point jungling like, Lifestealer or some other heroes are. So it's really up to you whether or not you want to do that. And after you kill a small camp, go ahead and rotate to this next big camp. Your Devourer should be just about getting up after you get here. So eat the biggest creep, and then proceed to killing the rest of the big camp. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the big camp spawns and what you want to spawn in a big camp. Now, the best two creep spawns for Jungle Doom are the Satyr camp, which I just killed, and the Jungle Troll Warlord camp. And that's because for the Satyr camp, the Unholy Aura, the 4 HP regen a second aura, is insanely good for keeping your sustain up in the jungle, keeping your HP up, and it really helps with jungling a lot. The other camp, the Troll Warlords camp, is also very good because Raised Skeleton is, very helpful for jungling. But if you get that camp, make sure to watch your mana. You don't want to raise Skeleton too many times and then just run out of mana for Devour. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is kill the pull camp, and this really depends on what your game situation is. In most high MMR games, you're not going to be able to do this, and that's just because the pull camp is either going to be blocked by a ward, or your support's going to be using it to pull. But in a lot of games, no one's doing anything with this camp because support's not very good in solo queue or whatever. So if this camp is free and no one's using it, go ahead and just kill it. Okay, and as you can see there, my Devourer went up as I was kind of killing the camp, so I immediately went to a big camp to Devour. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is what your starting buy should be. And this is what my starting buy is for the vast majority of my games. It's going to be Gloves of Haste and a Tango. And generally I buy this as soon as I get the money for it. I was a little late in this video just because I'm talking, but you want to buy this as soon as you can, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, Gloves of Haste is something most Jungle Doom players is going to rush anyways. It's just for the rushed Midas and the slightly faster creep clears. As far as the Tango goes, as you can see, I'm getting pretty low, and it's really hard to sustain off a single set of Tangos as Doom, so you want at least another set. Okay, I'm just gonna eat that one, whatever. And this is pretty much how you jungle Doom. You know, it's pretty basic, and it's pretty easy, honestly. The one thing I would like you guys to keep in mind is, you know, jungle Doom, there's really not a one specific set way of jungling. You know, you're not a robot playing this game. You really want to be thinking about what camps spawn where, and you know, for the big camps, like I said, there are a couple of camps you really want to prioritize, and a couple of camps you want to, or one camp you want to avoid. And the general philosophy to jungling Doom is, don't kill big camps without Devour. You should only be killing a big camp when you have Devour up. And if you don't have Devour up, you should just be rotating between small camps. So like you see in the video, what I did was, you know, I killed this camp, my Devour was up, so I killed this one. But if you kill this camp and your Devour is not up, just skip the big camp and move on to the next small camp here and kill that one. And after you kill that one, if your Devour is still not up, skip to the next small camp and kill that one. So only visit the big camps when your Devour is up. And this should be true until you're level 5 at the very least. And that's just the most efficient way to keep, you know, experience up and to keep your HP up in the jungle. Okay, so that's about it for Jungle Doom on Radiant's side. As I said, it's pretty easy, and overall, instead of, you know, just really copying what I did, you should be focusing on the general strategy. Every time your Devour is up, go to a big camp, eat the creep, finish it off. If your Devour is not up, don't try and kill a big camp. Just go to small camps, kill them off until your Devour is back up. Anytime you need regeneration, you can ferry some from base, but as you can see, 2 Tangos should be enough if you're doing this properly, unless you get some very bad spawns. So I'm going to talk about a few more things, and I'm also going to show you guys how this is done on Dire's side, so stick around for that. It'll be coming in just 1 second. Hey guys, welcome back to the Jungle Doom video tutorial. Now I'm going to be showing you guys how to do this on the Dire side of things. And it's really more or less the exact same thing. As long as you keep in mind the tips I gave you earlier, you should be just fine. Okay, so I'm going to touch a bit more about these starting items. I was actually looking at several of the guides up on YouTube, and I found out that, you know, pretty much all the guides were either outdated or made by lower MMR players. Then they had some interesting starting items. And while they might work, I think that most of the other starting items are pretty inefficient, and, you know, in some cases I saw some starts that were just straight up wrong. So some of the starts that I saw were, you know, Stout Shield, Tango Salve, or sometimes Stout Shield, Ring of Protection into, you know, another Tango. And I feel like both of those builds are pretty inferior to this one, just because the Quelling Blade is an extremely important part of this build. It has 32% bonus damage to creatures, which is, you know, a huge amount of damage. It lets you cut through the jungle, and it lets you clear creeps much faster. And I mean, even you know, in pro games, you see a lot of the professional carry players get a Quelling Blade after they get their first big item, just because they want to be clearing the jungle faster. It's that important to them. So for you as a Jungle Doom, it is definitely the most important item for you as well. Okay, so as far as the gameplay goes, you can see I'm doing the exact same thing. I checked the rune at 0, made a few tree cuts, and at 30 seconds I'm going to head over to my big camp here. It's a Satyr camp, which is really good, and I'm just going to go ahead and clear out the remainder of this camp before I head to the small camp. So yeah, back to what I was saying about the QB. Always start with this build. In my opinion, it is really the best build that Jungle Doom can do, bar none. Okay, so I see there's a centaur that just spawned in the small camp there, so I'm gonna bypass that. And there is also a centaur in this camp, so that really sucks. In this situation, I'm just gonna bypass both of those camps and go straight to the pole camp and try and farm this one. You know, in my game it's up obviously, but in your game your support might be using it or it might be blocked. Now if your support's using this camp or if it's blocked and both of these camps are centaur camps, then you basically have no choice. You have to kill one of the camps, so you can just choose one and use Scorched Earth and burn through the rest of your tangles just to kill that camp. Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing you can do if that happens. That's basically the worst possible jungle start. And, you know, most of the time it's not going to happen to you. So after killing the small camp, my Devourer was up again. Come to the big camp, eat the big creep, and kill the remaining ones. And as far as the skill order goes, you know, also pretty intuitive. I will always max Devour first, and generally I like going for the 4-4-0-1 build, just because Scorched Earth is really good, and since I don't get any mana items personally when I'm jungling, I really don't need to you know, waste mana on level death. Okay, so I'm still kind of in this bad situation where both these camps are centaurs. And in this situation, if you do see a jungle troll warlord camp and your Devourer is not up, you know, I would recommend you try and kill the jungle troll warlord camp over any other camp. And that's just because these creeps do piercing damage, which is really weak against hero. So generally, out of all the big camps, if you have to tank through a big camp, the jungle troll warlord camp is going to do the least amount of damage to you. And I didn't get the spawn. Oh well. Okay. So obviously I missed the buy a little bit again because I was talking, but it's really the same thing. So you want to be buying Gloves of Haste and Tango, and you want to be turning the Gloves of Haste into a Midas as soon as possible. Okay, so that's still a centaur camp, and I'm only level 4, so I'm gonna avoid it again and come to the pole camp, and go ahead and clear this one. Now, you know, if push comes to shove and, you know, the jungle creeps pretty much drain you out of all of your regen and you're forced to go back, then you can do that. It's not that big of a deal for Doom. Yes, you're gonna be a little bit behind, but Jungle Doom excels in catching up and really farming fast, so it's not a big deal if you're forced to make a back trip. And if you do make a back trip, then I think it's worth it to buy a TP. I would just TP right here or right here, and then start again as soon as you can. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going through the motions here, continuously killing big camps, eating big creeps whenever I can, and I'm gonna rotate back to the small camp here. So as you can see, having the small camp open to you is really helpful as a jungle Doom, and you know, it's unfortunate that most of the time this camp will not be available to you, but if you see that it's not being used, definitely take advantage of that and kill it, because you can kill it really fast, you don't lose a lot of life, and it's pretty efficient in terms of life lost versus EXP gained. Okay. So yeah, that's about all that I wanted to cover as far as the jungling goes. The only other thing I wanted to really quickly touch upon is what item you should get after you get your Midas. And honestly, what I like to get is I like to get Midas into phase boots, and then at that point, usually I'll get a mech if no one on my team has mech, just because mech is a very crucial item, and especially in high MMR games, the team that doesn't have a mech can't fight early game. So, you know, it's really important that your team gets the mech, and that's what I'll generally go for. Now, if someone on my team is already getting a mech, generally the items I like are either Shivas or BKB. Both those items are really solid. They give you a lot of combat effectiveness, and you can basically, with either item, use Scorched Earth, pop your Scorched Earth, pop your Phase Boots, and then just charge at someone, and there's really nothing they can do, especially if you also use Doom on them. And even in team fights, it's really hard to kill a Doom with Scorched Earth and Shivas or BKB. So yeah, that's pretty much about it for that. The only last thing I wanted to touch upon was that I know in my build I don't get any mana items, and that's because I'm very stingy with my spells. I'm not going to use Scorched Earth until I absolutely need it, and generally speaking, I never use like this spell, or I don't level Death until I'm 9, so I go for 4-4-0 build, 4-4-0-1 build. So in that case, I can get away with not having a mana item, but I do know a lot of other people like to get a mana item, and if you really want a mana item, then that's definitely acceptable. I would recommend Bottle, or maybe Bracer into Drum. I don't really like Soul Ring, but it's workable. If you want a Soul Ring, you can include that into the build whenever you feel like it after Midas, if you wanted. And I've also seen people get mana boots, and I really don't like it when a Doom gets mana boots. First of all, in solo queue, if you're getting mana boots, it's going to be really hard for you to carry. And if you want to carry the game or impact the game, don't get mana boots. Also, you're in the jungle for the vast majority of your time, so most of the time you're going to be mana booting yourself, which is, that's not the point of mana boots. If you want a mana item, go for a different mana item. But yeah, that's about it for this guide. If you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. I have been playing Dota for a very, very long time. I played Dota 1 with many of the current pros before they were even considered pros now. So, if you have questions on certain heroes or certain builds or anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comments section below, and I will try my best to answer them. If you want to see a video on a different tutorial, feel free to ask me for that as well. And if I get enough requests, I can definitely try making one. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I hope this helped you out in your, solo queue jungle Doom endeavors, and hopefully this is going to get you some more MMR.